Hello and welcome back to Devil's Gambit. We will be continuing where we left off, which, if you recall, is after Hector and Runsky spent the night together. There's really no way to put it other than they spent the night together. So, yeah, it was sort of like how did he put it? To consummate the deal. So clearly Runsky he's plotting, doing something, and it requires Hector and a certain someone else. And towards the end of that update, something happens, which you don't actually get to see, because unfortunately it had to be, all censored and all removed. But that thing that happens causes a plant to grow from fluids that leak. And those fluids, I think, are the dusk viper plant. That whatever it is, whatever like poisonous plant thingamajigger is growing in the valley. So like I kind of get the sense that he's using Hector for the sole purpose of spreading the influence of the Eye Valley. Other than that, Cadgan had a sort of heart-to-heart talk with Hector, telling him about his feelings, why he was initially reluctant to basically like open up or literally do anything with Hector. And it kind of like sort of proved my point that it's like, dude, you were gone. Like, you were gone 9 years, and then you suddenly came back and you like immediately wanted something with Cadgan. And Cadgan was like, dude, it's been 9 years, at least, like, let's get to know each other a little bit first before, doing anything. And it made sense. Because Cadgan was afraid that after all those 9 years that things had changed, that he felt differently or whatever. Which, as it turns out, he did not. But of course, Hector was too hard up, I guess is the proper word, maybe. And just decided, you know what? You won't do it? I'll go to the demon. And, stuff happened. Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna see the aftermath of that, and because of course I read a little bit ahead, we're gonna see a startling revelation. But yeah, anyway, so without further ado, let us continue Devil's Gambit. Act 2, Chapter 5, Whispering Heart. Sunlight hitting me on the face never fails to wake me. On a hot summer morning, it'll spread a gentle warmth from the fur to the skin, and with the heat all surrounding, scents will become vivid. But even on a cloudy, rainy, or cold day, sunlight still forces me awake, even if I haven't slept in days. Even if I want to rest, my body is stubborn. I could close the curtains, but the single sliver of light sneaking in would be enough. And if it weren't, the birds and Arwal and his patrons would begin their concert all at the same time as well. But today, it almost is as though I'm enveloped in sunlight, yet I rest. It's so warm and soft, but I feel heavy. My body doesn't want to leave the bed. If only I had a low-stakes job. Why couldn't Dad acquire a fascination with woodworking instead? Then at least there'd be no problem with closing shop for a day even once in a while. Staying for just another minute or two won't hurt. I can scarcely believe what happened last night, despite my yearnings for Cadgan and the way that the other men would catch my eye once in a while. I never gave my feelings much thought. It was hard to, with Dad drilling into me that I had to focus on my studies all the time. I know he would have wanted me to have a child to, somebody to pass down my knowledge to, as he did to me. I figured that I'd meet somebody to do that with, eventually. Never tried thinking about what I wanted, though. But God, the way Runsky talked to me last night, how he possessed me. Just thinking about it makes me push my face deeper into the pillow, trying to imagine it's his chest instead. If every moment of my life could be like that from now on, I wouldn't mind. Come to think of it, how did I return here? I remember being in the forest with Runsky and everything we did. I might have fallen asleep after that. Then did Runsky bring me back? I furrow my eyebrows, opening my eyes just enough to look around the room. Then I finally notice the weight on me isn't just from coziness. But it can't be. At least it shouldn't be. I turn just enough to peek behind me, and there it is, the Devil of Ranai, out in dim daylight. Good morning, Hector. You're here. Yes. Would I not be? I can come and go as I please, in case you haven't noticed. But I thought you were a Night Stalker and... The demon's ears perk up and he breaks out in a cackle. Me, a Night Stalker? Please. You were reading that silly old book, weren't you? Shay wrote his compendium to scare foolish outsiders with too much ambition and not enough spine. He huffs on the nook of my breath. There's some truth there, sure, amidst the embellishments and guesswork. You'll need to do better than that, Badger. Oh. I whimper as the demon places a kiss on my nape, his fangs grazing me ever so slightly. He holds me tight, as though afraid that I'll vanish if he lets go. His heartbeat rumbles through him and into me. No doubt it'll lull me back to sleep if I close my eyes now, assuming Runsky doesn't try anything more dubious. And just as I'm thinking that, he prods my... We can't right now. What if you... off instead? It'll be quick. Yes, and then you'll... over me, and I'll have to go to work smelling even more like you. Not a bad idea. The demon giggles as I jab him in the rib with an elbow. I'm kidding. We can't let others in on our secret. But let's stay like this a little longer, alright? His arms tighten around me, fingers and claws sinking and drawing into my fur. At first it feels possessive, the Devil of Ranai holding the worshipper who gave himself, in soul and body, his property, and a part of me could not be happier at that idea. I really want to be his concubine, don't I? But there is such a gentleness to his touch, in the way his claws only barely graze my skin, not a scratch, not a tinge of discomfort, and that warmth cradling me from all sides. There is something else there, or perhaps it's in me, in what this awakens in my memories of all a decade ago. To refuse to let go, to hold on to at the last moment. Is this what lovers do? A chuckle escapes me. The demon notices. Sorry, it's just... That reminded me of Cadgan a little. Whenever we slept together, he didn't want to part ways in the morning. The demon slowly blinks, lost in his own stupor. That he did. Sometimes he'd hold me for so long that Dad would be awake by the time that I returned to our room. I'd have to lie and tell him that I rose earlier and went out for a stroll in the garden. I'm not sure that he believed it. What were you up to back then? Me? I was asleep. I wasn't needed anymore after I kicked Leopoldino out of the valley. I see. I knew about your father. He was in the thoughts of many of the townsfolk. Still is, but especially back then. You, though, I only learned about last year. Will you go back to sleep once this expedition is over? The demon begins tracing circles on my belly. No, this time I have a deal to fulfill, you see. But don't worry, my full attention will be on you. I won't have a bone to pick with the Duke and the townsfolk once they go back to respecting and fearing the valley. They should consider themselves lucky. If not for you, I would bless them with a true catastrophe before going back to sleep. It almost sounds like I'm a sacrifice to appease the local spirit. What a noble way to say, you gifted yourself to me. You must be the happiest sacrifice in the whole world then. With a sigh, Runsky shifts and kisses me on the cheek before he gets up, I stare at his back as he throws his arms up in a stretch, his hooves slightly dragging on the floor. So, all that about Night Stalkers isn't true? That about controlling your victims and whatnot? Of course not. I, for one, don't need mind control to make you do what I want. I suppose. What happened to the other demons? Are they hiding? Aren't you curious today? Yesterday, a part of me was ready to accept the demon, while another resisted and urged me to visit the shrine. After last night, that rebellious spirit is quieter than ever, but I still find myself wanting to learn more about him. If anything, my thirst has only grown. I wish that he'd start talking, and I could silently listen while he holds me. Why do I like Ronskai so much? He indulges me in everything that I didn't know that I wanted, but why do I trust him enough to allow him to do that? How come I welcome him around and in me so eagerly? It could be that he's just that charming, but that doesn't necessarily translate to trust. You can be talked into doing something and regret it later, but I don't feel like that in the least. He's a demon. Every caress and sweet thing that he says should feel as ominous as landing on the sap of a carnivorous plant, but even now, with a clearer mind, it just doesn't. I admit to feeling a pang of curiosity, though I feel we're close. I don't know much about you, do I? The devil's grin grows sharper as he hunches over, grabbing me by the cheeks. You know I love you. It's the fundamental thing, Hector. Isn't that enough? Those words pierce right through me. It's as though I'm about to smile and tear up at the same time. Then he beams at me, warmer than the sun of the tallest peak. I even catch in his voice a hitch, some kind of wild joy at saying those words that breaks his demonic attitude. But, you see, I don't know what to do, what to say. What do I feel? His words, his voice, his smile, it all feels so honest all of a sudden. But in the time that it takes me to blink, it turns into a grin, a cheeky one, laughter barely contained. I recall it clearly, Badger, when I first awakened, when I was but a mind sprouting from a dark lake. I found this absence. Amidst all the fear, doubt, regrets, pain, and grief flowing into me, nourishing me, was that aching want. Like all love, it was born from a lack, and it cut through drying wells and the valley shudders. This fire can make a demon out of the fairest man, and amongst the screams, that was the first thing that I felt, Hector. My very first memory. I've waited ever since. I fed on fear, grief, and horror for what feels like an eternity. And, by the eye, it felt like my hunger would never be sated. But now the devil of Renai feeds. What a feast your heart provides, Badger. His voice breaks into laughter just then. He even has to cover his mouth when he hears footsteps passing outside the room. I'm just teasing. He steps back and I look away, feeling my face and ears on fire. If you want to know about me, all you need to do is ask. There's no need to dig around in dusty old tomes. Right. Can you at least tell me if that whole story about the Dark God is real? Oh, yes. It is very real. I won't mince words, Badger. The Valley and all that it relates to ought to be feared, and that includes its dark god. It wishes for its slothful slumber to remain uninterrupted, and defying its will would bring forth dire consequences to all. Oh, if only you could know. Alas, if I told you all the horrible details, you would tremble so much your spine would sing like a lithophone. Now, any other questions? Are there more of you? I mean, more demons from the Eye Valley. Or are you the only one? Not anymore, no. It's just me now. At least, I won't have to fight off any rivals trying to get a bite out of your heart. Before I can pick another of the many questions swirling in my mind, a shout coming from downstairs brings me out of it. If I take any longer, I might miss breakfast. The demon, of course, picks up on my urgency. Now, I'll leave you be. I might be capable of roaming the day, but the night suits me much better. He raises his hand and prepares to snap his fingers. Wait, before you go. What? Will you me off after all? I click my tongue. No, but could you hug me? Runsky blinks, and it's as though everything goes still. Even the faint voices below stop for that instant. Then he smiles, opens his arms, and proceeds to pick me up into a back-breaking hug. And here I thought you wouldn't ask. Runsky is beaming, none the wiser to how close my vertebrae are to shattering. His ears twitch, and his grip loosens, letting me plop butt first onto the bed. Oop, pardon my enthusiasm. I lean forward, rubbing my back with a groan. The demon scratches his chin with a contemplative look. Now, I'll let you start your day. I won't be seeing you tonight, but remember, I'm always near. Don't miss me too much, eh? Right. See you soon. And just like that, he's gone. He always disappears so fast. I wanted at least his warmth to keep me company a little longer. Didn't expect him to almost snap my back, but I'm happy that he was so enthusiastic. How absurd, how selfish, how giddy I am. It's only when I'm making my way down that I start feeling just how sore my behind is. Were it not for the stretchiness elixir, I wouldn't be walking right now. This is Runsky's fault. He went too rough on me last night, but I'm angrier at myself. I wish that I could have taken him better. Get the in too. That's something that I can improve in the future. Right now, I should be dreading what my hospital shift will look like. Cadgan isn't here today. Maybe he's making his way back from the shrine or spending some more time with Irnan before he departs. I'm in the middle of finishing breakfast when somebody drags a chair next to me with a screech, making me tense my shoulders. The smell of wheat and dried milk. It has to be her. The wolfess leans over with one arm on the table so that our gazes meet. First, I find her playful smile before I'm drawn to her sharp, golden eyes. Hello, Teresa. Good morning, Hectorino. Have you seen Cadgan around? No. He might show up in a few minutes. I have news for him. But, since you're here, I guess I can tell you to. Was going to anyway. You know Cadgan's birthday is tomorrow, right? Yes, mentioned it. Let's skip the part where he complained about Teresa planning a party. Ah, I'm so glad that you remembered. I knew that I could count on you to be a good friend. So tomorrow we're going to the forest shrine to celebrate it, and you naturally are coming. A birthday party for my best friend. How could I refuse? But why the shrine? Did the priest approve it? He wouldn't come to town, so we're going to him instead. Besides, I already asked for permission a few days ago, and he approved. Okay, what kind of party is this, by the way? How many people are coming? Well, I don't know how many people will actually show up, but I've been inviting everybody that I come across, so who knows? And the priest authorized it? Teresa is the sort of woman who never lets go once she settles her sights on an objective. I imagine Irnan would have had more luck breaking free from the coils of an anaconda than refusing her request. I figured that he wasn't happy about inviting a bunch of townsfolk into his home, but how is he going to stop her? Besides, this is for his son's birthday. But also, Teresa never hides what she's thinking, and I don't merely mean that she isn't afraid of speaking her mind. Even when we were younger, she told me all about Renai's demons killing the Duke's men. Her mischief, her desire to see me cry in terror, was plain to see. Cadgan was the same, prone to trickery, and proud of it. It's a little wonder that I liked talking to Teresa too. Anyway, how are you, Hector? You look like you got into a fight with your pillow. Me? I'm great, yes. You know, I came looking for you last night after dinner, but you never showed up. Arwell said that you went out. Where were you? My eyes go wide. Well, you see... Yes? I actually met the priest last night. I was at the temple. The one in the forest. Yes. What were you doing there? I went there with Cadgan. We dined together, us three. It was quite late by the time that I came back. Teresa tilts her head, and I feel the hairs on my nape standing. Is she onto me? God, I know I'm obvious. That's why I'm trying to avoid mentioning anything regarding Runsky. What gave me away? What do I tell her now? But then she cackles and I force out a nervous laugh of my own. Right. Anyway, do you think Caddy will come around here? Not so fast. What's so funny? Oh, I figured you'd appreciate me being coy. You guys f***ed, right? I'm frozen in place, unable to take another breath or even move a muscle. The last bit of air escapes my mouth alongside every thought occupying my head right in that instant. Somebody raised Karina from the dead because I've identified the fifth layer. It must be whatever just left my body. What comes out of my drooling mouth next can barely be called a word. It is but the shadow of a memory of a feeling. Oh, What do you mean, wah? It's a Renai staple. He invites you to dinner with his father, gets his approval, and then he drags you into the forest and... against the tree. Tail all this time. Hell, that's how my hubby and I had our first time. No, you... Come on, it's written all over your face. Teresa, merciless, tactless Teresa. How can you be so wrong, yet so utterly demolish my consciousness? How much more must you reduce me until you're satisfied? Perhaps she takes pity on me, or gets bored, and stands up from her seat. Anyway, I'm guessing Cadgan stayed at the shrine, right? Guess I'll try to catch him later. Have a good day, Hector. She waves at me without a care in the world before exiting the tavern. I remain there, petrified for several minutes until a spark of thought goes off in my skull and I remember that I'm running late for work. I'm only grateful Teresa isn't here to see me struggle trying to stand up. I'll need to ask for a day off. We do enjoy the privileges as long as we don't abuse it. Even doctors need to take care of themselves. But I don't think that the head doctor will be happy about me doing it on such short notice. Other than that, the shift at the hospital isn't as bad as I've been dreading. There are plenty of chances to sit down when you're looking for them, and I can borrow the hospital's equipment to brew an elixir to alleviate the pain. A good part of being in the hospital's main herbalist is that people stop asking what you're preparing. The corner the head doctor saved for me is always inhabited by the sound of bubbling potions and the smell of stinging herbs. A smell, though not as pleasant, not too different from Ronskai's. As we walk through Renai's forest, my eyes are fixated on the mountainous blue in front of me. Cadgan carries on, never minding the brushes, roots, or any other obstacle in the way. It shouldn't be unusual with him going back and forth between the shrine and the town countless times, but this is Renai. I've noticed it after living here for a few months, not as a guest in the Duke's manor, but as a doctor working in the town, somebody who often has to visit the river for water or hygiene, and to occasionally spend the afternoon prowling for herbs. This forest is truly treacherous. The path never quite twists the way that you remember. Everyday roots and rocks seem to bury or sprout out of the earth for no apparent reason, besides catching you off guard. I've grown used to watching my step, but Cadgan, he doesn't spare even a glance. I suppose it's to be expected. As a badger, I'm out of my element here, but he's the son of Renai's old priest. He ought to be more attuned to this land than I am. Hey. How are you feeling? Nervous? A bit, I guess. Last night, Teresa showed up while we were having dinner. She only stayed for a brief moment to tell Cadgan the party would be at the shrine, and that she had, in her own words, invited the entire town. I doubt that many people will show up. As the shrine comes into view and we walk under the whimsical frogs and past the statues of the two wolves, Cadgan slows down and then stops. He looks back, first at me, then behind me. One moment. He walks up to the two peaceful wolves, his wide silhouette concealing them as he crouches and reaches for them, or rather around them, grabbing something. The badger statue. He clutches it tight, enveloping it with his fist as though hoping that I don't notice. Let's go. All right. Inside the shrine, the small table that we sat at the other day has been replaced by a family-sized one. Teresa and Irnan are there to greet us. The wolfess is beaming while the priest... There's a hint of smugness to his smile, which becomes much more evident when he sets his eyes on me. There you are, keeping us waiting. I was starting to worry that you'd bailed on us. Hee. I wouldn't do that to Irnan. Cadgan wastes no time before Walking up to the shelf and placing the badger statue at the top, above all the colorful flasks and tools, he then turns to Teresa without missing a beat. Is everything prepared? Need me to step up or cook anything? Sit down, Caddy. Just leave everything to us. You too, Hector. Alright. You look happy today, Irnan. Of course, 'tis a joyous occasion. You don't worry about a thing, my son. Teresa raises an eyebrow at him. What are you up to, old man? Nothing at all. Don't give me that look. Hee 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 hee. I turn to Cadgan, whispering. What's up with Irnan? He's just happy. It's been years since he had a proper celebration for my birthday, let alone with other people. There is no way that it's just that, but the gleam in Cadgan's eyes is so joyful, so childish that I can't argue back. If he's having fun, then that's all that matters. After a moment, Teresa gives him a knowing smile. After she finishes placing the bread, cheese, and fruit on the table, they go out to prepare the stew. Cadgan and I are making small talk about the times Aunt Nora took me out to eat in the city when Teresa barges back in, and she's got new company. Cadgan, look who's here. Hey. I catch myself gripping the edge of the table. Cadgan hesitates at first, but then gets up to offer the wolf a handshake. Good to see you here, though I'm surprised you came. Fergus takes his hand. Teresa's gaze dances between the two of them, perplexed by the palpable tension. I might be an arsehole, but I'm no hypocrite. Not gonna act like I'm too good to join you today either. I haven't introduced you to Hector, have I yet? Cadgan gestures towards me, and Fergus shoots me a scrutinizing look. No doubt he recognizes me from the countless nights that he's seen my back next to Cadgan's. Hello. Nice to meet you. I'm Hector. Name's Fergus. He simply nods, Teresa staring at his face, with that look of hers that seems to be digging into your soul. The wolf takes notice and reluctantly returns the look. Once she seems convinced that he doesn't intend to cause any trouble, the wolfess clasps her hands together. Anyway, the main dish will be ready soon, boys. Feel free to grab a snack in the meantime. What about a drink? Arwell said that he'll bring some. He should be here any second now. Cadgan shakes his head. You're not drinking that. I'll get you some water. Fine then. Your party, your rules. The three of us sit down while Teresa returns outside. Fergus left a strong impression on me the other day, but I try to push those feelings aside. It'd help if he wasn't so focused on me. So, who are you? Pardon? You walk into town one day and have been sticking by Cadgan ever since. Why? Hector is a very special childhood friend. Really? I don't know any Badger family living in Ranai, unless they moved out. Do you remember Eogan? The wolf crosses his arms and leans back on his chair. The name rings a bell, but wasn't that a friend of Finbar? Yes, that was Hector's father. His ears perk up and his eyes go wide. Right, the foreign doctor. Then you met back when the Duke kidnapped you, huh? So you do know about that. Hard not to. Word gets around quickly in Ranai. And you know, it was scary back then, so it's hard to forget. Scary? Folks were afraid they or their family would be next for a time. My mom wouldn't let me out of the house. He laughs it off, but for an instant, he remembers being a pup, watching through a gap in the window for the Duke's soldiers. Cadgan's silently enjoying a piece of bread, seeming rather disinterested in the conversation. So, you two go way back, huh? How was it, staying at the mansion? Well, it was a beautiful place, but very intimidating. Everything was too big or too precious. The hallways went on and caused every footstep to echo. I never found any demons there, if that's what you're about to ask. I'm nowhere near the age to start making those jokes yet. Really? Cadgan and Teresa used to do it the whole time. But that was their thing. Hoof prints outside your home, strange sigils drawn in red paint, vines painted purple to make them look like haze leaf. Whenever those showed up, you could bet your life Teresa and Cadgan were behind it. Even as a pup, Alistair was a stubborn little bastard. There was this girl that caught his eye, and although she wasn't interested, he wouldn't take a no, and kept pestering her. When she was tired of it, she told Teresa, who told Cadgan, and boy did the two of them make his life hell. Fergus slaps the table as he breaks out in laughter, and even Cadgan lets a small smile show. I remember that. I asked Irnan to help make me this toy snake, and then I painted it and tied a string to it. When we were playing outside, I put it next to Alistair and hid behind a tree. Teresa pretended to throw a rock at it at the last second and pulled it into the bushes. Then she told him that the Dusk Viper was a sign of a demon had his sights on him, and to seek counsel at the shrine. Yeah, so you went ahead to wait for him. Goodness, what happened next? Nothing much. We just put him through a bunch of fake rituals to scare him. You were two evil little shits, let me tell you. I suppose you were a rascal even back then. He's always been like that. You know, I always thought you and Teresa would get together, sooner or later. Really? We get along, but I'm not her type. Guess you were more like partners in crime, huh? Or used to be. Suddenly we notice a heavy set of footsteps getting closer, followed by Arwell's bombastic voice. Just a few seconds later, he pushes the door open with a jolly smile. Teresa is behind him, trying to fit between the door frame and his tail. Greetings, friends. Here is a present, courtesy of Arwell. At first, I notice only two straps around the dragon's shoulders, but once he turns, I see that he's carrying a barrel on his back. He lets it slide down until it falls on the base of his tail, and then lowers it onto the floor. Damn, can't you at least let me have a sip, man? No. Come on, don't be like that. There's enough for everyone. As he says this, the dragon glances around the room. I figured that there'd be more people in here, in fact. Yeah, the last time it was Cadgan, Irnan, me, and my husband. It hasn't been this many people in years. That's so. Let's make this a memorable occasion then. Arwell doesn't waste time before getting to remove the barrel's lid. Teresa joins us at the table in the meantime. It looks like you guys were having fun. Mind filling me in? We were remembering the time that we pranked Alistair. Oh, that was a good one. The little shit deserved it for hounding Clarice the way he did. And that brings me back. I miss playing around like that, dishing out some well-deserved punishment from time to time. You know, it wouldn't hurt to do a prank here and there, every once in a while. Perish the thought. Imagine all we could accomplish together, Cadgan. We were young and naive back then, but now we could truly do Renai's legends justice. Sorry, I'm too old to have that much excitement in my life. Teresa crosses her arms, feigning irritation. You are utterly hopeless, Caddy. Where did Irnan go so wrong? Arwell then slides one drink at Cadgan across the table. One beer coming up for the birthday boy. Who's next? Me, please. After her, Arwell passes me a brimming mug. I catch it and simply stare into the foamy substance, taking in its bitter smell. Something in mind, Hector? You look like smoke's about to come out of your ears. Oh, I was just thinking about, Cadgan. Tell me something new. What about him? That he mellowed out with age, that's all. Teresa turns to Cadgan, one finger on her chin and biting her lip, deep in thought. The Mountain of Wolf catches her looking. Not that she's hiding it, but then proceeds to simply lap at his beer without a care in the world. You guys met him as a prankster, so I get why you have that impression, but I don't think he changed that much. How to say it? He's always had this edge to him, but he still was a quiet, boring kid at times. He did keep to himself, even back then. One day me and my family went to the shrine and I spotted him off to the side, reading all by himself. Call it intuition, but I saw he was cunning under the good boy guise. I knew that he'd make the perfect accomplice. That sounds like what he did with me. I taught him well, didn't I? Although, didn't he punch you the first time that you talked? That didn't happen to me. Suddenly, I can feel everybody's gaze on me. Cadgan is still unbothered. Not quite. Oh, sorry, I forgot. First he punched you, then he beat you up, and you were so grateful that you gifted him some nuts. Look, it was a peace offering. It might not look it, but Hector's very perceptive and quick on his feet. Cadgan! Cadgan gives me a confused look as everyone else breaks out in laughter. I huff, gulping my mug when I spot an unfamiliar figure by the door. A half-dressed lion leans against the doorframe, with his arms closed, witnessing the scene with a sharp smile. Who is that? Oh, don't mind me. Carry on. Ricardo, you came after all. I hope Irden didn't give you a hard time. Of course, I couldn't miss a chance to celebrate my old friend's life for anything in the world. And we had a most amicable chat, I assure you. The lion strides forward, sitting down to Teresa's right before swiping the bowl of cheese away from Fergus. The wolf gives him a frown that borders on a snarl. Ricardo smiles, throwing a piece into his mouth. Who's this arsehole? Why did you invite a lion, Teresa? Because he's one of Cadgan's friends. And look, he actually showed up. A lot of wolves didn't do that, you know. The wolf clicks his tongue, stealing the cheese bowl back, almost with a jealousy. Ricardo shrugs, tapping Arwal's arm. A beer, please, barkeep. A beer, please, barkeep. Sure thing. But what a surprise. I don't think that I've seen you around before. Where do you live? My current abode is in one of the Duke's many guest rooms. I don't visit town very often, as I feel my presence is unwelcome, you see. Ah, I understand. His Grace prefers to employ lions as his personal servants. Would you happen to be one? Indeed. That's so. You don't look like a servant. I'm no simple cook or housekeeper. I come from a lineage of appraisers. Some nobles can't tell the difference between gold and copper, or between a soft piece of silk and a used arsewipe. That isn't very nice. The lion makes a dismissive gesture. We're all in good company here, aren't we? But enough. I don't want to bore you with work talk. You have many friends from far places, huh? I'm curious, how did you guys meet? The lion stares at me, rubbing his chin with a mysterious smile. Oh, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Hector. Don't worry. I know who you are all too well. I know well what he's thinking, because Irden gave me the same look when we met, as though he'd been hearing about me for long enough to make him stir crazy. An awkward chuckle escapes me as he continues picking me apart, taking note of every little detail that doesn't match what he imagined of me. I figured you'd be taller. You were a rather big figure in his life, you see. Well, they tell me I'm pretty tall where I come from. I figured you'd be wearing something fancier too, being a doctor and all. But I digress. Me and Cadgan go way back. Much like yourself, we met when we were only children. We first met in the mansion, but we only had a couple of short interactions. He struck me as an interesting fellow, even back then. A few years ago, I ended up seeking his expertise. Expertise? Yes, as a priest. Though I suppose he never stopped being an apprentice. I figured that I'd have better chances with him than Irden. It was a small thing. I needed help interpreting some woven runes in an artifact Leopoldino had pillaged from the valley years ago. This wasn't for a job, but as part of an investigation I was conducting out of personal curiosity. Sounds shady as hell. Your people should learn to fear the valley. Since the Duke wasn't involved and Ricardo would share his research with me in exchange, I figured that it was a good deal. It was the start of a very fruitful friendship, if I may say so. And, if it matters, I know well enough to fear the valley. I heard about the mouths and teeth. That was enough. You have friends from faraway places, Cadgan, and until recently I thought that I was the only one. And that he does. What is your story? Nothing special. Cadgan was very nice to me back when I first moved in. Most people were, but I figured that I don't need to tell you that some people took issue with the dragon moving into town. While most folk were kind, I did notice that they looked at me a bit different from everybody else, and when somebody stirred up trouble over my species, they would lower their heads and look the other way. It made me miss home at times and my family, but Cadgan was very supportive. He didn't shy away from telling them to lay off me. When I was just starting with the inn, he always gave me a hand when he could. I hadn't noticed. Do they still give you trouble nowadays? Nah, it took time, but they did warm up to my charm. Looking back, I can even tell you what did it. That there was this terrible winter, right after a bad harvest too, and everyone was afraid, if not for themselves, then for their neighbors and loved ones. And to make matters worse, a few houses collapsed under the weather. There was no way that they could be rebuilt with all the snow making things difficult, so you can imagine how tense things became. But I had a few spare rooms and my hearth was warm. I didn't think much of it while the others were still discussing what should be done. I got everything ready for the affected and brought them in. Since then, everybody has treated me like one of their own. I won't deny people here have their rough edges and are cautious towards newcomers. This town is a big family and everyone knows each other, so it's not every day that we get new faces. But like any family, people can join in, and once they do, that's it. You're one of us, and if you stick with us, we'll stick with you. You say that, but I haven't seen Arwell compete in the Great Lake Games yet. Oh, I just didn't want to intrude. Nonsense. You need to participate and show us what you're made of. Besides, Cadgan will have to quit making excuses and join too. If he's gonna claim that he can beat a dragon, then he can better back it up. Is that how it works? Well then, I'll do my best. Suddenly, Aaron calls out from outside. Teresa, help me bring this in. Arwell, be a sweetheart and help him out, okay? Sure thing. And here we have Irnin's secret stew. First to raise their hand, first to get served. There's no secret to it. It has the usual ingredients: horned beast meat, marinated in pale bloom fruit juice, mashed red wheels, a bit of fire fruit for the extra spice, and salt. And what could be either a surprising display of strength in Irnin's part, or a more typical display of shyness on Arwell's, the old priest wrestles the ladle from the dragon's hand and points at the table. And give me that! Go take a seat already. But the chairs are too small. You can use the small table as a seat, I guess. Good thinking. It's not too often that I get to try traditional Renanian cuisine. May I have the first serving, sir? Wait, Cadgan, do you want your present before or after the main course? Her piercing gaze falls on me, just long enough for me to notice before she returns to Irnin. She did that on purpose. I don't mind either way. In that case, it's better if we wait. Oh? What makes you say that? Irnin whispers at first, before speaking up. He should be here soon. Let's eat in the meantime. Compared to the other night's stew, this is similar, yet richer. Cadgan had to procure the meat on the short notice, while Irnin knew about the birthday a few days in advance. He had more time to prepare it, and it shows. We're just a few bites into the meal when there's a knock on the door. The priest nearly jumps off his seat to go get the new guest. Ah, finally! I mean, come in. I'm gonna call them Barry, okay? We were all waiting for you. You were? Gee, thank you, sir. I'm so sorry I'm late. My aunt asked me to run errands for her at the last minute. So, A Puggy Wolf comes in. He looks around the shrine, smiling, but with a hint of confusion in his eyes. Before he can say anything else, Irnin pats him on the back and invites him to introduce himself. Barry? Isn't this the, like me but less gelatinous wolf that Irnin mentioned? Cadgan barely reacted to his name, so I figured that they didn't know each other well. How unusual that they'd attend his birthday party then. But stranger things have happened. Fergus was the last person that I expected to see here after all. I lower my gaze back to the food. One bite, two, and then I look at Barry again, as he greets Teresa with a hug. He's carrying around something tightly wrapped in a white cloth. It's sort of large too, probably not meat or food. It looks too solid and doesn't have much of a smell. Have he and Cadgan talked before? It's a small town, everyone knows each other, and Cadgan is the lumberjack. It'd be odd if they hadn't. But looking at him, I think Irnin was off the mark. He's attractive. There's no denying that, but that doesn't mean Cadgan would be interested in him. I might be shorter than Cadgan now, and upon closer inspection, Barry is around my height too. But when we met, I was a few centimeters taller. It's obvious he prefers larger men, so I can't imagine Barry catching his eye. If anything, it'd make more sense for him to be into Arwell, which he also isn't. Not to mention, he looks a bit clueless, and his eyes carry his... Hector! The wolfess is leaning over the table, snapping her fingers right in front of my nose. What? Yes? You're spacing out again. Have you been getting enough sleep? I did, last night. Okay... Anyway... Barry here wanted to introduce himself. Nice to meet you. I'm Barry. You're Dr. Hector, right? Indeed. As we shake hands, I pray that not a trace of animosity is showing in my face. Judging by Teresa's expression, however, I'm failing spectacularly. Barry either doesn't care or notice. Sorry if this is a bit weird, but I heard about you. You're the talk of the town ever since you made an antidote for dusk viper venom. That fellow you treated, Gerard, he's the cousin of the granddaughter of my aunt's childhood best friend. I really can't express how grateful we are for what you did, Doctor. Sure. All right. Anyway, let's enjoy our meal now. After that, it's present time. I hope you're ready. Mine will blow all of yours out of the water. Hee 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 hee. Present time? Oh, I see. Take that free spot next to Cadgan, Barry, and let me fetch you some stew. As lunch continues, the newest addition to the party becomes the main topic of conversation. How's life been treating you? Your aunt still making trouble? Nah, I'm glad to lend her a hand. She indeed fought a lot with Dad over the farm, and that strained our relationship too. But now that... it's just the two of us. Things are different. I'd forgotten how well we get along when I was younger, to be honest. It's like we're slowly returning to that time. What do you do to help her with, if you don't mind me asking? Running the farm mostly. Dad was a workaholic, to put it mildly, so he left very big shoes to fill. We considered getting more people to help or just downsizing our activities, but with this Duke situation, we never know when I might be called to join the expedition, and if I get injured, I might be unable to work for a long time. So we've been toughing it out, saving up in case of an emergency. Smart, but it sounds like you have quite a lot on your plate. And you're intending to win the Great Lake Games on top of that. You're a tenacious one, you know that. You know what they say, choke life by the neck. And that's how it went, right? Teresa let out a cackle. Not even close. Thank you for taking a moment of your precious time to come here, Barry. You're an excellent young man. The circumstances fate brought upon you are injustice, but that makes you all the more admirable for surmounting them. I believe we have much to learn from your example. I sigh, looking away to the side. I'm gonna kill him. Did you say something, Hector? No, nothing. I understand you intended to captivate a sweetheart at the games this year. Please don't put me on the spot, sir. Not next to my girlfriend. You're what now? When we were kids, we used to joke about getting married if we didn't find anybody else by the time that we were grown-ups. Yeah, and then Teresa got a partner and didn't wait for me. But no matter, this year I'm catching up to you. I'll be introducing you to an actual girlfriend by the end of the summer. Ooh, I can't wait. That's great, Barry. Say, what about men? Lots of men admire strong fellows such as yourself. Well, as Dad used to say, a hole's a hole, as long as they can take a good pounding. Ah, ha 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 ha. I can't recall the last time that I heard a laugh so full of despair. Anyway, Barry, why are you here? With how busy you've been with the farm, I didn't invite you because I figured that you wouldn't have time. And not to mention that I've never seen you and Cadgan talk before. That's right. The priest asked me to come today last time that I visited. Teresa nods knowingly, her gaze shifting to Irnan, who tries to look unfazed. She then points at the wrapped-up package. And what's that on your lap? Isn't it obvious? It's a birthday present. Anyway, Barry, come outside with me for a moment. Sure? As we watch them leave, Teresa shrugs and goes back to eating. Arwell points at the door and then turns to us. Interesting fellow, that Barry. Did you notice that he was wearing dragon-style garments? Maybe he learned it from you? You read my mind, Cadgan. Who knows, maybe he likes dragons. You two could be good friends. So that's actually where I'm going to leave it for today. And yeah, I know I cut it at a really weird spot, but I kind of had to. It's a really long update. And I don't think that you're going to want to sit through the whole thing, because some of you just don't have that attention span. But anyways, yeah, so we actually got to meet a whole bunch of new people. We got to meet one of their childhood friends named, I think it's Teresa. Kind of like Teresa, that's why I'm pronouncing it Teresa. Teresa. We got to meet Fergus now for like Not for real, proper. And then Ricardo. And the person who I'm pretty sure I'm mispronouncing their name, I think it's supposed to be actually pronounced bear. Like a bear. But like, when I'm recording, I don't really have like the time to go like, let's see how you pronounce this name. Actually, I do, I'm lying, but whatever, I don't care. I'm pretty sure one of you right now typed in the comments, it's supposed to be pronounced this way, why are you pronouncing it this way, blah 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 blah. I really don't care. If I haven't cared in the past, I'm not gonna care right now. Anyways, so I'm pretty sure that we're all getting the vibes that Hector is jealous for some weird reason of Bear. I mean, obviously Aaron invited him for a reason, but like what does he have over you, Hector? Come on. You're not the boyfriend of Cadgan, but I'm pretty sure Cadgan only has eyes for you, so like, come on. Come on. Anyways, also, Runsky was, there in the morning. That's nice of him, I guess. I still don't trust him, and I'm not going to trust him. I mean, literally, he is he's positioned right here in this screen as the main villain of the story. Come on. Everyone is literally looking up behind him at the big swirling cloud of orange. Well, salmon, I guess. Whatever. Anyways, so yeah. So, a lot of new people. Cadgan's birthday. But yeah. What are your thoughts? Write it down in the comments, and thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play Devil's Gambit and, see the rest of it, you can do so by going down into the link in the description. And that should have a direct link for the itch.io page where you download it, play it, or you just go to itch.io, search for it, and, play it. If you would like to support the project, you can do so by going down to the link for their Patreon, where you get early access to builds of Devil's Gambit, as well as some works in progress and some other stuff that they offer. Again, all the links down in the description. And yeah, so I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.